Welcome to From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Here you'll go from making ends meet behind a keyboard to living in true freedom by using real estate well. Never having to work a full-time job, report to a manager, or give your adult life to a corporation that probably doesn't care about you. We will give you everything you need for your journey: techniques, principles, real-world experience, and application, filtered through 5 key power principles from my book, People Power, Other People's Money, How to Win, Enjoy, and Reserve. Get ready to take notes. Let's jump into From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Welcome to From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Here you'll learn how to live behind a keyboard and wanting to hit your face on the keyboard because it's boring day to day in the tech world, to living in true wealth and freedom through real estate investing. I have an amazing guest here today. Ed Mathews is a seasoned real estate investor and founder of Clark Street Capital. With over a decade of experience, Ed has built a portfolio of multifamily properties of 150 doors in Connecticut and the southeastern United States of America. With another 80 in development. This guy is busy. Ed's journey was far from direct, but the thing is, for 24 years, he worked in Silicon Valley in the tech world, working for startups and honing his skills in the tech world. It wasn't until 2011, and we're talking about, not that far away, that Ed bought his first rental property. So he's been making moves extra quick. Over the years, Ed worked tirelessly to grow his portfolio, juggling his family, day job, and Clark Street Capital. Finally, got the big break. In 2018, he made the courageous move to leave the rat race and focus entirely on Clark Street. When he's not hunting new projects, he could be found spending time with his family or watching college basketball with his favorite team, Villanova Wildcats. With a deep real estate knowledge and a passion for helping others achieve their goals, Ed is a trusted mentor for anyone looking to build their own real estate empire. Welcome to the show, Ed Mathews.
Thank you, Ivan. How are you?
Good. How are you, brother?
Good, man. I'm excited to have this conversation, and I'm going to ask you for a copy of that really nice intro. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So before we get started, you want to also introduce yourself, maybe a 75-second kind of
Yeah, you bet. I
yeah.
can probably do it faster. So Ed Mathews, Clark Street Capital. Spent about, as Ivan said, I spent about 24, almost 25 years in Silicon Valley, slinging software and services and traveling 150, 200 nights a year with a family that got to the point where they started to not recognize me. And so I'm kidding, but I wanted to build a real estate portfolio for the long term. And in 2017 and 18, end of 17, early 18, my wife and I were trying to figure out, okay, I'm just missing, a lot of good stuff at home, right? The choral concerts and the soccer games and all that.
Yeah.
And so we looked at the real estate portfolio and realized it can actually support our family, and we can continue on without the day job. And so I, soon thereafter, resigned from my company at DocuSign, and my role at DocuSign, and then started full time in February of 2018. So it's been almost 6 years now.
Praise God, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And so I guess tell me about your motivators. Was it mainly family, or was it something else?
To get into real estate or to go full time?
To leave your job and to do real estate.
Yeah. So I as I mentioned earlier, I spent, probably 150 plus nights a year in hotels, mainly because I was traveling, all over the country, and in some cases all over the world, to basically represent the companies that I was working for.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed a lot of really good stuff at home. I have 2 beautiful girls, and they're amazing human beings, and I attribute all of that to their mom. And I have a beautiful wife who I adore, and she seems to still like me, which is nice. And so the thing is that it was primarily family that really got me thinking, hey, there's got to be a better way. And so, fortunately, I had been slowly but surely building up a portfolio on the side as a side hustle over the previous, 7+ years. And it put us in a position where we didn't need the day job anymore. So I got rid
Yeah.
of it.
And what inspired you to get that portfolio over time?
So a little bit of a hokey story, but I'll tell you. So my family tends to live like across the board. We tend to live into our mid 80s, right? So, and I'm 54 right now. So I got another 30 years plus, and I'm, hopefully, God willing. And,
Amen.
but my wife's family, especially the women in her family, they live to be 100, like
Oh.
almost all of them, right? And so the whole concept of the real estate was to provide cash flow into our golden years, knowing that my wife Patricia, who as I mentioned, I adore, she is my person, and I wanted to make sure she was going to be okay, so that that last time I laid my head down on the pillow, that I could know that she's going to be okay and well taken care of. And I think like that for kind of two specific reasons. One is, my wife is my person, right? And so I want to make sure that she's, able to, that she's well taken care of. But the other
Hmm.
part of it was for my kids, right? Because if I didn't do that, then they might have to support their mom when dad is gone, and that's not fair to them, right?
Hmm.
And so I wanted to make sure that that was all taken care of, and well on our way. Not there yet, but well on our way.
Hmm.
And hopefully, it continues to progress as it has over the last 12, 13 years.
Okay. Awesome. And we just drove naturally into the first section, people power.
Yeah.
Out of the power acronym, people power is the first one. Second one, other people's money or resources. Then winning, enjoying reserve.
Yeah.
So people power, you mentioned your wife, and that's your person. How do you kind of here and there try to also train her on property management, asset management as your so you could
So
also help?
in fairness, she wants nothing to do with real estate. Stresses her out, right? And so so she's an accountant by trade, and I
Okay.
tried. It's interesting. So she and I are very different personalities. She's more of an integrator, and I'm more of a creative.
Okay.
And so I had said, hey, why don't you come work with me? And she thought about it for a couple of days and came back and said, you and I work very differently, and I like being married to you. So I'm going to continue to be married to you and not work with you. And I said, okay, that's fine.
Hmm.
And so, we have our monthly, I refer to them as the board meeting, which is basically at our dinner table, thumbs up, we're good. Thumbs sideways, we got to talk. Thumbs down, the sky is falling. And so far it's been
Hmm.
thumbs up. So,
Oh, good.
she's obviously intimately involved in all of the financial decisions that we make, but
Yeah.
in terms of the day-to-day operation of the company, she has really nothing to do with it. Although I have built a tremendous team, so I'm a big believer in virtual assistants, and
Hmm.
so we've created a team based in the Philippines that handles our entire back office. So I couldn't get my wife, the accountant, to join the team, so we hired a CPA in the Philippines to run our books, and we have a local here. I have a controller who helps us close the books every month,
Excellent.
but all of our social media, all of our video, all of our acquisitions and transaction coordination and investor relations, and you know everything is run out of the Philippines predominantly. The only thing that lives here is me, the controller, and our construction crews.
It's excellent. So you could have a very low overhead in the office tasks.
Uh, yes, but also, the folks that we've hired, the Philippine culture as a whole, they are genuinely good people, hardworking, smart, highly educated, highly motivated, and so it's been a great experience.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. My assistant, Mia, she is a lifesaver. I don't know
Yeah,
why I did it. Well, I pray that found her sooner, but all in God's timing.
right.
But yeah, she has been way strides above anybody I've hired locally here.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, they work our hours. Some of the things that are in the back office that don't really need to overlap with my hours, I'm pretty flexible, like social media. My friend Jazz, my teammate Jazz, he does a lot of his creative during his day. And then his night and my morning overlap, and we have conversations about, kind of the messaging that I want to get out there and frameworks we want to talk about and things like that. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I do want to touch on that for the previous point for a second, because low overhead is actually pretty good thing to keep in mind, especially if you're a beginner, having a lean and mean operating machine, because, if you're starting out, you don't want to be paying out thousands of dollars every week when you're not sure if, rent, you got just one property you just
Right.
bought. You're not sure if rent's going to be hit.
Right.
So definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And you mentioned an integrator role. So this is a Traction reference.
It is.
The
Yeah.
book Traction. So we
Yep.
highly recommend that. We're both fans. And to give you a high level, there's the visionary at the top and then the integrator at the kind of, but they're both essentially in the same leadership team. Integrator is more like a chief operating officer,
Right.
handling the details. You also mentioned it's totally okay to not work with your wife. Like, that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, it is a stressful thing. Like, real estate can be stressful sometimes. So
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, every building we buy has a curveball and it's stressful, and you take a deep breath and you figure it out. But
yeah,
if it's not, um, she's not passionate about it. She's passionate about other things. And so
yeah,
I want to support her in that. And she supports me in what I'm doing. So
yeah, for sure. When you mentioned take a deep breath, see that couch over there? Sometimes I had to just lay down and just take a deep breath, like you said, when some deal went awry or something like that.
Yep.
Allowing the emotional states to get pull through
Absolutely.
instead of
Right.
saying no, it's gonna happen.
Right. Couldn't agree
um,
more.
yes, indeed. All right. What else did you mention? Okay, I think I covered the main points I wanted to talk about that. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so what fallback plan do you have in case God forbid you do pass, and like what sort of systems do you have in place to where it's not that overwhelming for her or your kids to handle the management?
So she won't. So the conversation we've had is about stepped up basis. And when I go, sell everything.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And so if they want us to keep it and live off the cash flow, great. And I've given, in my uh files here is an envelope with, here's where all the bank accounts are, here's where the lawyers, the accountants, the insurance agents, and in addition to that, there's also a plan in terms of, if you want to liquidate, then here are the realtors here are the brokers I would work with, and
Mm-hmm.
either liquidate, or if you want to hold on to them for a while, here are the management companies that I trust,
Yeah.
and and let them hand it off. So
Yeah, that's good. I have a similar action plan. I got to probably make it more detailed, but that's
it's never
over time.
detailed enough. It's a working document, right?
Yeah, right.
Coming from the tech and consulting world, I think in terms of systems and process, and the disaster recovery business continuity thing was probably one of the first things I did, right?
Okay.
Right after I bought a life insurance policy, because you never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, exactly. As in the book of Genesis,
Yeah.
Enoch was walking with God, and then he was with God, just
Right.
out of nowhere. um, so let me see. Other people's money or resources.
Sure.
How do you have a plan around those aspects of the real estate world?
So I have a viewpoint on that, and that is that I want to include people in our growth who want to get off the stock market roller coaster and want to eliminate as much risk as possible. I mean, nothing's risk free, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that real estate tends to be a very stable, very conservative way of growing, whether it is gangbusters like the last 3 to 5 years, or it's dipping into a recession, which is probably what we're looking at over the next 1 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I look at our capital raise as an opportunity to share in the growth of the properties. The things we're really good at is we're really good at finding deals. We're really good at underwriting and figuring out how to, create that spread between the purchase price, the cap rate, and, our debt costs, so that, we're making consistent returns, over the course of a 3 to 7 year hold. And from there, our focus is on operating and managing the living daylights out of it, right? And so, the investors we work with tend to come back a lot, and the reason being is that we tend to deliver or promise a little bit and deliver a lot, and so they know that we're going to be hyper conservative with our projections, knowing that because of our property management and asset management abilities, that we're going to deliver consistent returns. And
Yeah.
so now we've taken that, and originally I was going deal by deal. Actually, originally I was using my money, and realized I'm not infinitely wealthy, and if I wanted to continue to acquire real estate, I needed to get partners. And so the partners come aboard, and they ranged from lending relationships where we were just paying an interest only rate, to joint ventures, to limited partners in a general partnership that we've created. And now actually we're launching a private equity fund, so that we can be in a good position to help other investors, so more of like a debt fund, as well as to be in a position to rapidly acquire properties, distressed and value added opportunities, as they present themselves, as the economy kind of drives off the virtual cliff.
Yeah. When you mentioned the infinitely wealthy, um, I realized too that was a similar thing I hit my head against when I left my job in 2017.
Yep.
And I was blessed. I had a pretty good uh, egg, I would say, the nest egg, as they call it.
Yep.
160,000 in one swoop from one deal.
Nice.
But then within a few months, I realized, wait a minute, I could only do 4 flips with this money.
Right.
Like, that's not sustainable at all to
No.
scale up an empire.
Yeah,
So
and then you realize, okay, me and my family require food and shelter
yeah.
and clothing, and it turns out that 160 isn't what isn't what you thought it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear you.
So that's why I got rid of food, shelter, and clothing.
So the nudist colony is working out.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I was one of those guys that tried to convince my wife to do a tiny house.
Yeah, how'd that
That
go?
not so hot.
Yeah.
She didn't go for it.
See, so I'm a bunch of years older than you. So I'm 54. As you get into your 50s, the conversations you'll be having with your wife are exactly that. I don't want to live in this big house anymore. The kids are gone, or they're about to be gone. And now I want something that I can, that takes me 20 minutes to vacuum instead of, an hour and a half. Right.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, those are the conversations. My youngest is a sophomore in high school, and the nanosecond someone hands her a high school diploma, we are out.
A nanosecond.
Yep.
That's awesome. So how do you personally raise capital? Like, did you have lunches with people when you were in the tech world? And is that kind of your base?
So it's kind of like a concentric circle thing, right? So started off with friends and family. And so that was, people like my uncle and my college roommates, and, some old friends from growing up, people that I've known for years.
Mhm.
it evolved into friends of those people, as well as my former work colleagues, right? So, I spent 25 years in Silicon Valley, so I know, a bunch of people that have done very well for themselves and would like to get into real estate, but they work 80 hours a week and it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
And I know they work 80 hours a week because I was that guy for a bunch of years. And so, we provide them an opportunity to divest or diversify into real estate and out of the stocks and whatever else that they hold in their personal portfolios. And so we've kind of gone through that process, done quite well for our investors, and now we're starting to grow it beyond that in terms of people we don't know yet. And so a lot of that is just flat out marketing, right? So it's and I kind of view myself as an educator. So the things that we go to market with are things to help potential passive investors to figure out if this asset class, multifamily, is something that is interesting and in line with what they want to do. And so, that can range from ebooks that we've done. Like we just released one that talks about, the 107 questions you need to ask a general partner before you invest. Right. And so we want to prepare them for their own due diligence process, because I've had more than one. I wrote that book because I've had more than one conversation with potential investors, and I've said, okay, so how can I support your due diligence process? Do you want to run a background check on me? Do you want, details on some of our previous projects? Like, what I have a packet that I give them, but I also, I'm happy to support their due diligence process any way they want me to, and within reason, right? But the fact is that I think it's important that they do that. But I've had more than one potential investor say, no. I've been listening to your podcast for 6 months and I don't really, I feel like I already know you. And I said, okay, that's fine, but you still should do this work. Right. And, so I wrote the ebook to kind of give those folks a little bit of fodder to think about in terms of, if I were investing in a project, here are the 107 questions I would ask, right? And so I think that if you are about to hand somebody a lot of money, I mean, 50 grand, 100 grand more, you best know who that person is and how they handle success and how they handle failure, because everybody fails at something and hopefully they learn from it. And so, you just want to make sure that they are who they say they are. And so that was, so that's one thing. We're doing webinars around self-directed IRAs and how to use your retirement account to grow your nest egg in a tax advantaged way. There's any number of things. I mean, I'm trying to educate people. And, if we have 50, 100 people on a webinar, usually like one or two of them will raise their hand and say, hey, I'd like to learn more. And fantastic. And then, I tell people I'm a cheap date. I'm a cheap cup of coffee. I'll have I will meet anybody for coffee or lunch or whatever. And I'll buy, and let's have a talk about, the person's goals and where they are in their financial journey. And I'll tell them about some of the projects we've done and some of the projects that are coming up. And if there's a fit, great. If there isn't, I at least know what they're trying to accomplish, so that if we do have a project that fits with them, then, I can present it to them. So
yeah,
that's it. Simple.
That makes sense. Okay. When I visit Connecticut, I'm having coffee with you.
You got it. And like I said, I will buy.
Amen. Now, I just realized Connecticut. Isn't Bridgewater in Connecticut?
Bridgewater is so there's a Bridgewater, New Jersey and a Bridgewater, Massachusetts. There may be a Bridgewater, Connecticut, but I'm not familiar with it. Why, you have a deal?
I was just curious. If you are near them, you should probably visit them and have a cheap coffee date with them too.
Bridgewater, the hedge fund, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, they're in Stamford. I don't know Ray, but I do actually
Westport.
know a couple. Yeah, they're Westport. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So how close are you to them?
Not close enough.
Okay, right. That is a pretty cool company. It's a tiny
Yeah.
little hedge fund. You should probably research
Yeah,
as
it's
you're
a
listening.
it's a modest shop.
Modestly. Um, yeah, I think they have a moat around their building,
I'm sure they
so that
do.
speaks to their wealth. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, we're all building towards that sort of company, and I'm sure we'll
right.
make it happen.
Someday.
Yes, indeed.
I think I
Uh,
probably had to start a lot earlier than I did, but that's okay.
I know you're enjoying that content, but I just wanted to personally invite you to the Commonwealth Affordable Housing Fund. If you want to passively earn while also building communities, doing philanthropy even, while getting quarterly distributions and even sharing in the exit about 5 years down the line, then please join us. This used to just be for friends and family, but you could join in now. You could be essentially earning through an expert, which is I, running the investment firm Commonwealth. So if you want to be a part of it and also get access to exclusive events where we go to in-progress construction and I show you how your money is being used actively and how the renovation was just complete and how this is going to help change people's lives, how we negotiate an acquisition. So you could be a part of those events throughout the year and also earn passively. So if you want to be a part of that, please click the link below and I'll let you back to your awesome content. Thanks.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't need to be a billionaire. I'm good.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just wanted to make sure my family's well taken care of and I'm paying my bills every month.
Amen. So you mentioned failure the other a few minutes ago, and
Yeah.
I was thinking winning for me is actually a pretty redefining perspective. I think people that have failed actually have more of a winning personality because they know what to avoid in the future. What's your perspective on winning?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I have a really good friend of mine. He's a venture capitalist. And so he's out on the West Coast and he refers to failure as cycling. I said, okay, tell me more about that. And he said, I won't work with a new entrepreneur unless they've cycled at least once. And what he means is that they, started a company and it didn't work out and they rebounded because it shows maturity, it shows perseverance, it shows that hopefully that they've learned from whatever caused their company not to succeed. And so over the years I've learned that there's really no such thing as failure, right? There are mistakes and lessons and learning opportunities. And if you are trying to be perfect, good luck, because I don't know anybody that is.
Hmm.
And so, like the culture we've built here at Clark Street is all about learning, right? I mean, like I said, I think in terms of education. So, I mean, I screw up 5, 10 times a day, and hopefully, I can fix 2 or 3 of them, the following day when we realize that I blew something. But it's part of the process. It's part of the entrepreneurial process. And a lot of what we do, like marketing for instance is a perfect example. A lot of it's trial and error, right? You create something, you think it's going to resonate with the audience that you're trying to target, you throw it out there and dud, nothing happens, right? And you realize, okay, well, maybe I got to change this and update that and offer a little more value here, and then boom, it clicks, right?
Hmm.
And you're dealing with human beings. There's no way to know, of the 100 people that I'd like to meet, if I'm going to create something that's going to add value to whatever they're trying to do, I have no idea until you put it out there, right? So I embrace failure, and I fail daily,
Yeah,
and it's okay.
yeah, it's
So,
okay.
and that's how I win, right? Because it's still Thomas Edison thing. He invented the light bulb after trying, I think it was like 2,000 different types of incandescent light bulbs. And when he finally got it right, and there was a commercially viable product, he looked at it as not 1,999 failures. He looked at it as 1,999 ways not to make a commercially viable light bulb, right? And so I think that entrepreneurship in general is the same way, same
Yeah.
model.
There's two comments I had on that. More along the speaking to experts, Howard Marks. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Sure. Yeah.
He has a book called The Most Important Thing, which is like every chapter is the most important thing in terms of
Right.
investing,
Right.
which speaks to how, uncontrollable variable rate is the business of investing. Like you may know everything, but it could catch a surprise. It makes me also think of a quote I had on my office wall, my cubicle wall when I was still working in the tech world, which is let's make better mistakes tomorrow.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So a practical way I think about that was recently, like last year, we acquired a 12 unit
Yeah.
multifamily, and immediately I spent a good amount, about 10 grand on replacing the roofs. And I realized, oh wait, I could have spent it on something else within a few
Yeah.
months because there was no leaks. It was not urgent.
Right.
But luckily, it didn't affect the investors. There was a buffer for stuff like that, a reserve. So next, like mistake won't involve that one. Basically, that's the practical way to look at it. Like I
Uh,
won't immediately spend on a roof after acquiring a property if not
yeah.
needed.
It's funny. I made the exact same mistake. And the fact is that, I learned very quickly that, unless the roof is leaking, the residents that live there don't care. And
Hmm.
the investors, they're looking for a return. That's it.
Yeah.
Uh, I was thinking that by fixing the roof, which was nearing end of life, that it was one less thing I had to worry about for the next 30 years while we own the property. And what I didn't really do, and this was a while ago, but is I didn't understand that, what residents care about is living in a clean and safe place and providing them with amenities, whether it's a C class, B class, A class building, it doesn't much matter. Provide them with the amenities and the service so that they're proud to live there, right?
Hmm.
And so, upgrading common areas and making sure that the mechanicals are, the electrical, the HVAC, the plumbing is all clean and safe. Making sure that that when a unit comes open, we go in and we brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom, basically brand new everything. And what that allows us to do is really, a couple of really important things. One, folks that are proud of where they live tend to take really good care of it. They tend to pay their bills on time,
Hmm.
which is wonderful, and they stay a lot longer, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have the typical slumlord, guy with the the monocle and the all that, all the whatever image comes to mind when
Tuxedo.
you say land. Yeah, right. Um, they have somebody that looks a lot like me that actually treats them with respect, and it's thank you for letting us know. Yes sir, no ma'am. I'm
Hmm.
happy to help. It's our pleasure. Follow up to make sure that something that's broken that we just fixed is actually fixed. Making sure that that the property is clean and safe, and the whole idea here is, and this is one of the things I'm passionate about, is that I know for a fact that if you have a 10 unit building on the left and a 10 unit building on the right, um, my residents will stay at least twice as long as the next guy over. And the reason being is that we take excellent care of our buildings and we take excellent care of our residents. So, the whole goal is, I think we average about 4 years of residency on average, which saves on unit turns, it saves on lease ups, it saves on a whole bunch of stuff that allows us to be a lot more profitable. And, some of that money allows us to then serve our customers, our tenants, our residents way more effectively than anybody else in the neighborhood. And here's
Hmm.
the cool part: over time, usually takes 6 months to a year at least, the building itself gets a reputation as being very well run.
Yeah.
And I know that if Mr. and Mrs. Smith move out of apartment A, I know that almost always the next couple that's going to move in there lives probably within a mile and a half of that building. So not only are our residents happy and they speak well of us, but the building is the nicest building in the neighborhood, or at least the best run in the neighborhood, and folks want to live there. And so I then get to, uh, basically steal residents from my fellow investors,
Yeah, because
and
you're doing your job better.
I'm doing it better. Yeah, it's funny. Somebody asked me. I was on another show, and somebody asked me, if you had to tell me, um, if I was a fifth grader, how would you explain your job? I said, I buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who suck at their jobs. That's what I do. Right?
Yeah. There's a speaking of doing your job well. That's one of Nick Saban's favorite quotes. It, he yells at his football or college. He's college football coach, right?
Yep. Alabama.
Yeah. He just yells, "Do your job."
Yep. It's a Bill Belichick thing too, right? And
Yeah.
it's that simple, right? And the other thing that Saban always talks about is rat poison, which is don't believe, don't pat yourself on the back too much, right? You still have to work at this. And
Yeah.
so, we're growing, but we're also trying really hard to get better at what we do, every day.
Yes, indeed. We got to keep improving, continuous improvement.
That's it.
I think that's a tech world term too, right? Continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a Tony Robbins thing too.
Yeah.
Constant and consistent improvement.
Yeah. So here's my secret when I acquire a property. Okay, here we go. I schedule a meeting with the tenant, each tenant, and I tackle them into the ground. And I put them in a headlock until they tap out. Problem solved forever.
How's that go?
It's a lie. It's a joke. So it's
no, of course I know. Yeah, no, I've been notorious in, I think, all but maybe one of our properties. I'm the one knocking on the door, introducing myself, because the fact is that, and it's funny. I have investors, partners and buddies and all that. They're like, why would you let them know that you own the building? I said, because I want them to know there's a new sheriff in town and I actually care. And
that's awesome.
I look at, and it's a karma thing, right? But it's also a business thing. I want them to know there's a new sheriff in town. I want them to know that that we're going to take our service for them very seriously.
Yeah.
And that I also want them to know that that we intend on repairing the relationship, because invariably, when we acquire a building, one of the reasons that a building owner sells, one of the reasons is because the relationship with the residents have broken down so much that it's just really stressful to manage that property. And I'd say that's more than half of the buildings that we acquire, over time. But the fact is that once a resident realizes that they're being respected and they're being heard, and we're responding to what, they'll, when I knock on the door and I say, okay, help me understand what's working, what's not in your home. And they give me a list, and, part of what we do is we go back and go, okay, here are the priorities, and here are the high priorities, here are the medium priorities, here are the low priorities. We immediately communicate that back to, the residents, so that they understand, okay, yes, we're going to fix the faucet. My guys will be there tomorrow. Yes, we're going to fix the toilet. In fact, we're going to replace the toilet. My guys will be there tomorrow, right? The door handle that your 6-year-old broke, we're going to get to that in a week or two. But, when we've got a whole bunch of other stuff that we need to do in the building, but, and you communicate, and I think they appreciate it. And it's it's a dance, right? I mean, you've got to be very clear about what priorities are. My world is blood, flood, or fire, right? And so we're looking to eliminate those things immediately, the potential of them. And then from there, it's a lot of cosmetics and conveniences, and we try to prioritize the conveniences, and eventually we get to the cosmetics, right?
Yeah. It brings up, when you mentioned new sheriff in town, I mean, I was joking, but there's also you have to explain the seriousness of what's going on also when you're a new owner,
Yeah.
because like you said, the previous owners were probably letting things happen that shouldn't have been let happen. So
Yep.
there's going to be probably insecure tenants that
Absolutely.
are going to
Always.
try to goad you into some nonsense,
Yep.
and you got to be serious and monotone and calm the entire time. So
Yes.
what's an example you could think of for that?
So there's always at least one, tenant or resident that when you go and you ask, okay, what's going wrong, you spend the next 15 minutes hearing about all the horrible things that the previous owner did to them. And, I listen and, I want to make sure I understand that. What also comes along with that though is a list of things that need to get fixed or replaced or upgraded, that could be as long as my arm, right?
Hmm.
And so again, it comes down to listening, making sure they feel heard and respected, and then communicating directly. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can do eventually, and here's what I'm not going to do. Right.
Hmm.
And as long as that is done professionally, it comes down to emotional intelligence, right? They're not yelling at me. They're actually yelling at the previous guy,
Yeah.
and but they want to be heard, and so you have to respect them, and you have to let them get it out, so that you can start to figure out if the relationship can be repaired. We lose 25 to 40% of our residents when we acquire a building. uh in a lot of cases it's because the relationship's just too broken, and they don't want, they don't care that I'm a new guy and I have nothing to do with the old guy and all that. They just want a clean break. Totally cool. We wipe the slate clean, we give them a nice reference, and off they go. And then we upgrade their units, right?
Hmm.
And then the ones that stay, we work really hard to help them understand, like, the termite, there's a new sheriff in town, right? um, and so hopefully we're able to save some or all of the remaining residents, and we've gotten pretty good at that, actually.
Yeah. And people are going to take things personally, but that's just a part
Without a
of the
doubt.
thing. Like,
They can take it personally, you can't. And
yeah.
that's the difference, right? That's the emotional intelligence piece,
Yeah.
because you're there to serve. And in a lot of cases, I wouldn't say an abusive relationship, but it's been a pretty toxic relationship between, the landlord and the tenant. And I think that, even the words we use are different, right? I don't have tenants, I have residents, right? I
Hmm.
have people that live in homes, and our job is to provide a clean and safe place that they can call home and be proud to live there, right? And
Hmm.
so the whole idea here is that words matter, and that you've got to make sure um that they understand it. Feeling respected is great. They actually have to be respected. And so that's something that you can't tell them you're going to do that. You just have to go do it, right? Somebody picks up the phone, says, hey, my toilet's leaking. Okay, we'll be there this afternoon. And somebody shows up at 2 o'clock and fixes whatever needs to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
And you do that enough times, they go, okay, Clark Street, they actually are, they're the good guys. Okay, cool, I can live here, right?
Yeah. And explaining consequences is also a sign of respect, even if they may take it personally for in the short term. Like there was this one guy that was playing loud music, and I told him, if you do that again, we'll have to evict you because it's a part of your agreement. You can't be disturbing other people. And
Right.
of course, he took it personally, but the thing is, explaining consequences, like it makes me think of the Bible actually. Honor your mother and your father.
Right.
Well, a way of honoring them is also telling them, hey, what you did is wrong.
Right.
I'm not going to allow you to step on me. Like that's not
Yeah.
cool.
So I took a page from Brendan. What was it? What's his name? The guy from Bigger Pockets. I'm blanking on his last name. Um,
Oh, Brendan Turner.
Turner. Thank you. I was thinking Thompson. I'm like, that's not it. Brendan Turner. So his book, one of the things that he has in his property management book, which is excellent, by the way, is a welcome pack. So that when he acquires a property, they get a document that kind of lays out, okay, here's how our relationship works, right? Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I expect you to do, right? And so I co-opted that. I've kind of customize it to the way we operate. But whenever we move in, whenever we acquire a property, everybody gets a welcome packet, and that includes talking about our relationship and talking about how they ask for help and how they pay their bills. And it's a very simple relationship. We are going to, and this is in the document almost verbatim, we are going to provide a clean and safe place where you can be proud to live. You're going to pay your bills. Simple, right? And so that is the expectation. And in that document is like the consequences piece on, so here in Connecticut, everyone gets 10 days grace period, which is fine. So on day 11, they're going to get a letter saying, hey, you're late, right? On day 15, we're going to have to file. And, at that point, it is, we don't want to evict, but we have to. This is a business. We're not, I'm not independently wealthy. If residents don't pay their bills, I can't pay the mortgage, and that's a problem for everybody.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And so that is, that's made crystal clear from day one. And it's amazing that I find most people will go, okay, I get it. No problem. Right. And especially when they see us, when they hop on our property management platform and say, hey, I need help. And they get a phone call back in a minute. And if somebody needs to be out there, they're out there in a few hours. Right. So it matters.
Indeed. Now let's move on to enjoying. How do you enjoy your wealth and what you're building, brother?
So we have so it's a funny story. I'll tell you a very short version of it. So I used to flip a lot of houses, especially when I was in working my day job. And so, I wanted ugly. I wanted, collapsed roofs and mold and water damage and dead bodies. I mean, I wanted whatever. I wanted the worst of the worst because the contractors that I worked with were awesome, and they could handle anything, right? As long as it wasn't condemned. And actually, we even bought a couple of condemned properties and fixed them, right, and brought them back to life. But so my wife turned to me a couple 3 years ago and said, "At what point do you use your powers for good?" And I'm like, "What the heck does that mean?" I thought I was using them for good. She goes, "No, for us." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "When do we get like a beach house or something like that?" And she didn't say it quite like that, but she was like, "We're in a position where we can afford this. Why don't we do this?" And I said, "Okay, here's the deal. I want you to find a property in, wherever you want. We're fond of Rhode Island. So I want you to find a property in Rhode Island. I want it to be a disaster, right? Black mold, water damage, animals living in the building, just
zombies,
a nightmare. Yeah, exactly. Right. Cemetery under the foundation, the whole poltergeist thing, everything, right?
No, you didn't.
No, I was kidding about that. But 2 weeks later, she's like, "You mean something like this?" And she showed me her phone, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's perfect." I got in the car, I drove to Rhode Island, I negotiated the deal, and a few days later, it was done. And
Nice.
I spent better part of a year and a half putting that thing back together, and now it's this little teeny. So you're talking about tiny houses. It's an 1,100 square foot house.
Oh.
With a detached garage that I turned into what we affectionately call the snore box. I refer to it as the teenage receptacle. So it's wired for sound. It's got a nice TV and comfortable chairs, and that's where the teenagers go, so that mom and dad can have a little peace and quiet. And it's wonderful. And so we spend as much time up there as humanly possible. The biggest challenge that keeps us from that is that my youngest daughter is a really good softball player, and she plays softball all over the country. In fact, I'm going to Illinois this Friday to watch her play in a tournament
How dare she be so talented?
I know it's infuriating, but yeah, so she's chasing her dreams, and so when she chases her dreams, I can't sit on the beach, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Yeah, it's got to be fulfilling in its own regard.
It is.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's one of the ways. We're a dog family, so we've got 2 dogs, actually 3 dogs, counting my daughter's Chihuahua
Okay.
and my oldest daughter's Chihuahua. And so we spend a lot of time with them, walking them and, enjoying and trying to sneak away to Rhode Island. And
Cool.
yeah.
I got a potbelly pig.
Do you really?
Yes. I'll text you a picture when we're done.
Oh, please do.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a video of a potbelly pig on it was TikTok or YouTube, and I sent it to my, we have like a family thread, and I said, I want a pig. I'm getting a pig,
Yes.
because all the dogs, I live in a house of women, literally.
Okay.
So all 3 dogs are female. I have 2 daughters and a wife, and there is no testosterone
Oh, wow.
other than what I'm throwing out there.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna get a male potbelly pig
There you go.
at some point. Yeah.
I'll support you, bro.
All right. Thanks, man.
Okay, we're in the last section, reserve.
Yep.
So there's different aspects of reserve. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is financial in the
Yeah.
investment world, but there's also emotional, spiritual, familial. When you think of reserve, what's the most important thing for you when it comes to your life?
So importance, I'd say family, right? I'm married to my best friend. There's nothing I can't tell her. There's nothing I can hide from her. I come in and she gets one look at me and goes, "Okay, how was your day today?" She knows that I'm feeling a couple inches shorter and I got my butt kicked today, right?
Mhm.
And she also knows when I had a good day and I'm 4 inches taller. But I would say that having that in my life has saved me from a lot of anguish, because I don't have to. Men suffer in silence, right? Traditionally,
Yeah.
and I don't have to have that because I have my wife, and so I'm able to let her know when things are great and when I feel like I got my butt kicked.
Mhm.
I think financial reserves are also important though. And, I learned that the hard way, right? When I was, it feels like it wasn't even that long ago, I had burned through a whole bunch of cash, right? And I was, building this empire and not really paying attention to leverage. This was when I was, my own money, right?
Mhm.
And I realized that I got a little far out ahead of my skis in terms of having a reserve fund that just in case a boiler goes or just in case, you have to turn in an apartment that you weren't expecting to have to turn, that you've got, operating capital in the bank. And then COVID taught me a really important lesson. So we typically carry financially, we were carrying 3 months of operating and debt expenses in a reserve account that is, break glass in case of emergency kind of an account, right? We don't
Mhm.
dip into it unless there's something really wrong.
Mhm.
And so with COVID, we were just wrapping up our flipping business to focus entirely on multifamily, and I used that capital from the flips to extend our reserves to 6 months, and mainly because who could foresee a global pandemic, right? And fortunately we only had a couple of residents who were really struggling, and here in Connecticut they had a whole bunch of state programs that helped, and we were flexible in terms of helping them figure it out, and we were able to retain those residents, and in fact both of them are still residents today.
Mhm.
And but the fact is that you just can't plan for that stuff, right? You can't plan for what's going on in the Middle East, or what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, or what could happen in Asia, or anything here, right? You can't plan for that. So
Yeah.
you have to plan for, have that rainy day fund. You never know.
Yes, indeed. I would also suggest as a part of that rainy day fund, put in a totally separate bank across the entire state, so you can't see it every day.
So you can't get at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up. How could people get in touch with you, and what are you working on?
So if you want to get in touch with me, best way is on social media. So we're Clark Street Capital everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm also Ed Mathews or Ed Mathews 4 everywhere as well. And you can always listen in on our podcast as well, which is what I'm working on these days, which is the Real Estate Underground, and that is also one of my passion plays because it's educationally based. We're there to pick the brains of really smart people like you, and hopefully we're going to have you on our show very soon.
Indeed.
And then hopefully drop a few gold nuggets so that somebody else can improve their business. So those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, sounds good. And what are you working on? Like, I guess you're always like me, raising capital for deals.
Always raising capital, always looking for construction partners, always looking for deals. I have this, I use the same process most people use, right? I create awareness of, hey, I'm looking to do this. I'm looking to raise money. I'm looking to buy a deal. I get to know them. I become friends with them. I serve them, and eventually there's trust between us. And soon after that, hopefully, we earn the right to do business together. So I'm always reaching out to brokers and agents and mortgage guys and technology executives and doctors and lawyers, and trying to figure out, okay, how can I serve you? Because I fundamentally believe that Zig Ziglar was right? If you help enough people get where they want to go, they will in turn help you get where you want to go. And my life has been based on that, both professionally and personally. And, so far working out.
Amen to that. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll catch you on the next episode of From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. I hope you got a lot of return on investment for your time today, and I encourage you to share it with other people so that they could also get returns with this valuable education to invest in real estate. We're also sharing this free education because we want to help people learn how to invest so that they could also create more affordable housing units. We have a great goal of creating 2.5 million affordable housing units by 2047, and free education like this is a big part of that. So by you sharing, you are a part of the equation to create those affordable housing units. So I can't wait to see the end of the road that we're going to achieve together. Have an amazing and blessed day.